Thank you for tuning in to Sunday Dinner. I'm your host, Zach Radio, and I'm really excited for the guest that I have on the show today. Entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of one of the most innovative companies in Web3 when it comes to music NFTs. And I'm super excited to have the guest on the show today. Michael, I didn't want to demolish the last name, my friend. How do you pronounce the last?
Yeah, it's you actually demolished the first name too. It's it's Michel Traore.
I was way off. Apologies.
Yeah,
Apologies.
it's the French version of Michael.
Michelle, I'm not going to try
Yes,
the accent, sir. So please excuse me ahead of time. But is Michelle is correct, right?
it's correct. It's like the American girl name, just the same.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today and correcting me on that. But I do want to acknowledge the fact that what you've done thus far has gotten a lot of community members' attention, especially from a consumer standpoint, where I'm
Definitely.
where I'm standing from, and being in the Web3 ecosystem. I have a lot of community members around me who are musicians,
Mm,
and we've
yeah.
had the conversation of what makes music NFTs valuable but
Mm,
besides just supporting artists that you're friends with or that you just want to support,
yeah.
and I feel like
Mm,
another block is heading that way, bringing that specific value to music on top of just supporting your favorite artist. And before we kind of get into that, can you kind of give us a little bit of your background prior to getting into Web3?
yeah, 100%. I was actually pretty late to the Web3 party, to be totally honest. I mean, my background is I'm from the south of Sweden, grew up between here and West Africa, Burkina Faso. And my father is from there. So when we lived there, he actually set up like one of the first labels, modern labels in that region. So I grew up around music, but also like understanding how very difficult it is to create a viable business out of it and everything. Because at that time, the streaming platforms hadn't really kicked in, so there's a lot of piracy and CD sales dropped off and all of that. Yeah, so I never really thought I would enter the music industry. But yeah, always loved music. Played some instruments, recorded a few songs that obviously I'll never release. But my background has been in business, studied at different business schools, and then I worked within investments for a while, investing in startups. And after that, I was working within fintech, launching fintech companies across Europe, essentially. And then I hooked up with my co-founder who had already started. He was actually signed as a DJ, and then he was starting to look into the idea of music rights, essentially, both from the perspective of like an independent artist, which he was. It would be cool to share rights with people in his community, but also from the perspective of these big catalogs being sold. At that point, I think it was like Bob Dylan and Neil Young that was all over the news, and I think we were both like, why is that only sold to one party? Like, I listen to those. Like, it would be cool to own a part of that, even if it's like a super small part. So I think that's how the idea started, and it wasn't until like 2 months after that we actually decided to build it on blockchain. So like the idea and the concept came first, and then we decided to do on blockchain because it's just a lot more efficient to do it that way. So none of us two were really, super natives in the space, but obviously now we built a strong team around us that are leading the way in that sense.
On that note, Michelle,
Yeah.
having the opportunity to bring what you're bringing to the ecosystem, what made you feel that it was a good time to bring something so innovative to Web3 from a music royalty standpoint, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think that, like when we first just popped the idea, bounced the idea off people, like this was about 2 years ago or something, like wouldn't it be cool if you could just buy a piece of music and like it's so obvious in one way, but it's so foreign in another way. Like everybody understands the concept. You're like, oh, okay, I could, yeah, why can't you actually do that? You can do that in so many other things. Um, so I think that's, how we came into it. And when it comes to the royalties part of it, a lot of the things that we've been reading is about how very little these streaming services pay out. But that's not necessarily the whole story. They actually do pay out a fair amount. Obviously, it would be good if it was more, but if it were to be more, then we as consumers would need to pay more. And I would obviously be up for that because I value music. But would the wider public be? Um, and yeah, I mean, so what these stories about artists making that do stream a lot but make very little money in the end. That's not necessarily because of the streaming structure. It's more because of the ownership structure. So who owns the rights? And in many cases, it's the labels and other third parties that own a bunch of the rights. So from our perspective, what we think we can change here is that if fans and musicians themselves can own rights, then when you release a new track, for instance, say in 10 years or something, when this market is really mature, then you as a big artist or an independent, you can say, okay, I have a new project, I'm selling 10% of my rights to the public, and then maybe you'll just use that money to then pay labels for marketing or videos and etc. And you end up with 90% of rights. Whereas today, a lot of people sign 80-20 deals where they basically just give up 80% of the rights off the bat. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be enhanced within the current system when it comes to rights. So yeah, in that sense, what we're doing, we're not, because if you look at Sound XYZ or other that are more pure collectibles, I love what they're doing too because they're creating just a completely new class. But that might not bring in people from outside of Web3, and it might not, as you can see, there are certain artists that continuously make drops and sell them out. I think what we're doing may be more uh, benefiting for the whole ecosystem because we're bringing people in, but then I think that the more random or the more of us that owns rights, the better it is for the music ecosystem because then I think artists will end up owning more of the rights eventually as well.
Thank you for elaborating on that. And for those who aren't aware of Another Block, can you kind of explain to those community members on what it is exactly?
Definitely. So, I mean, another block is we should probably post a link or something. But another block is it's a fairly simple concept. We have very big songs that we offer to the public so that the public can basically co-own them. So when you own a piece of this song, you get a nice artwork that we create, you get access to our community, but the most important thing is that you actually have real ownership. So it's tied to a real world contract. And when a song is streamed, then you get your share of royalties from that.
I recently seen an interview that your co-CEO Sebastian did, and he was talking about the opportunity for owners and investors to get immediate royalties. Can you
Yeah,
kind of elaborate on that and the benefit of those collectors?
definitely. I mean, so I think what's different in our case and our type of NFT is that like there was this really tough market this fall, right? A lot of NFTs went through the roof, and but most of them plummeted. But our NFTs are actually tied to something real, right? It's tied to a real music right that streams. So ours have been really really stable, which is nice. And now we're doing our first royalty payouts. We just did, and the average return was about if you take it out on a year, it's about 8%. And normally that's, an NFT community would maybe not be, or a crypto community wouldn't get super excited about that. So like if you look at it from a financial perspective, I would more see, yeah, uh, this being a type of NFT that, is more stable, but, which can be very positive to have those kinds of assets within this world as well. But when it comes to the instant royalties, we're going to be partnering, or we are partnering with Superfluid, the Superfluid protocol. So that enables us we're going to launch this in about 2 months. It will enable us to basically pay out royalties instantaneously. So when you buy the NFT, immediately, royalties will stop ticking, which is pretty cool.
That's the amazing part of what I think you guys bring to the table. And once again, as I mentioned, I keep saying that it's very innovative, but the fact that you provide the option for investors and holders to get that utility on top of the option for royalties, I think it's very, very important, and
Mm,
it's a game changer within the ecosystem. Now, one of the other questions that I was really intrigued about, Sebastian, that interview that he did was really,
mm,
really informative, and he mentioned how the legal contract is built into the NFT, if that makes sense.
exactly.
And can you kind
Yeah.
of talk about that specific setup?
Definitely. So, I mean, one of the first things we wanted to do when we started this was that, we wanted to make sure that when you own the NFT, you actually really own a part of the song for real, right? And we don't want just to have our word for it. And that's the beauty of Web3 also, that everything can be made public. So the token itself, when you hold it, it's tied to a physical contract that we've developed with IP lawyers. So that contract is the original seller, granting ownership to a certain token holder number. So if I have a token, I can directly track the original contract that states that I actually have the right for future royalties here, which is quite innovative in itself, because that token can then switch hand, but whoever has that specific token has the rights to receive royalties.
Having a partnership with Superfluid, I've just gotten more familiar with them. Can you kind
Mm.
of explain like what they do and what they bring to the ecosystem from a royalty standpoint?
Yeah. So I mean, normally we would do like royalty payouts, right? So like this last payout, we did one payout. So we look what the song has earned over the last couple of months, and then we pay that out. Superfluid is a really cool protocol that basically enables you to stream out money. So it means it can be a steady flow of you know of crypto coming towards a wallet. And by implementing that, we can actually, have that steady flow of royalties being paid out as soon as you buy the NFT, instead of you having to wait a couple of months in order to receive royalties. And from our perspective, I think it's really important, because then we can also like educate the holders, because then they'll understand that, okay, I hold this token, it streams, and now I actually earn, and I can see it, even though it's going to be not that much capital in the beginning, but there's still it's still going to be a very important like educational um, part of it, but also like gamified. It's fun to see things ticking.
On that note, another block has the opportunity to onboard a lot of corporate businesses from the music industry into this ecosystem, and the more the merrier, but we don't want those same discrepancies when it comes to artist royalties and things in that nature on the blockchain. And I think you guys have nailed it. But what are you guys doing to continue to onboard those huge independent labels to for them to see the value in what you guys are doing and what the blockchain provides?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're onboarding these independent labels and producers and artists, and I think the pitch to them is that obviously they're reaching a new audience, the Web3 audience, but more importantly, like before, it hasn't really been able you haven't really been able to share ownership in this kind of true way, because like that is what the blockchain enables, right? It enables ownership on the internet for real. And if you would have done this in Web 2, it would be more of a trading tool. You're buying into a royalty stream, and it's the emotion is essentially out of it. So I think what we try to tell them is that you can actually get people to feel that they own this track, and they will do their best in pushing it, and they're going to be proud. So you're getting like super fans that are ambassadors for this track. So I think that in itself makes them excited, but obviously it needs to be make financial sense as well to them. And I think that our solution does make financial sense to those who join.
With your experience recently, a lot of popular musicians have been selling their catalogs. Justin Bieber,
Mm.
Justin Timberlake. I know Irv Gotti also sold his masters as well. Why is this trend happening from your experience, and what's your opinion on it?
So, I mean, it's happening because music rights are it's a super good asset, right? So if you have especially, catalogs that are a certain age, 5 to 7 years, by an established artist, that is basically paying out, very stable dividend all the time. So it is a very, very lucrative investment, especially, in our world where there are recessions and things go up, things go down, like music royalties uh, from these kind of artists that you mentioned are super, super stable. So, then it all comes down to the price, because assuming that the seller also understand that this is a very good asset. But then, it comes down to, having wanting the liquidity and the capital upfront or not, because what these big funds like Hypnosis offer is obviously a big payment upfront instead of waiting for the royalties. And I would say that, that's where we come in with a third option, which is, hang on to most of your royalties, but sell some, but sell them to the people who actually listen and support you, and be a part of it together, and to do it in a more emotional and fun way.
Thank you for elaborating on that. So not only do you guys have the music within your ecosystem of another block, but you also have PFPs. Can you talk about that as well, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the people like the core thing of what we do is offering, music rights to the public, in a really, fun and emotional way where you can connect with the music you love and connect with the community. But like the PFPs, that was just something we wanted to give out to the early supporters, because we knew that, our early supporters they know about Web3, they know how things work. So they obviously knew what a PFP was, and a PFP is just, a nice artwork with, not much more utility than that. So we wanted to give them a really nice artwork, but then we also figured, since they've been loyal, we're going to give them some benefits with that PFP. So our PFP, we just created like 200, I think, like really, really few, but we let all of those who have them, they get to mint before others when we have new drops. Yeah, and that has proven to be extremely popular. Like those, way more popular than we anticipated. I think people like the artwork, but they also like what it gives them. So yeah, I mean, it's not something I want to put too much emphasis on, but yeah, you can see I have one of the PFPs as my PFP now. I think it's really, really, really good, and it's our lead designer that created them, and he put a lot of love into them. I know when he was creating them, he spent so much time, and they're all really unique. So yeah, it's fun.
If I'm a new community member who's interested in really diving into another block, where would you recommend that I start?
I mean, since we're here, and I'm assuming that all of the people listening in are more or less into crypto, then definitely our Discord, because that's where most of our community members discuss and view things. But if you're not super into Discord, just the easiest way is just to follow us on Twitter, and make sure um, to know when our drops are, and then just go to the website and grab our grab your share of the song you like, or already now go to our website and see the secondary market and see if there are songs you like and want to be a co-owner of.
Most recently, I seen independent record label Empire is doing a collaboration with the NFT to release music with on the blockchain with their artist. Can you see another block partnering with like a huge independent record label? I know it might be some barriers when it comes to the major label side, but from these independent side, can you guys see yourself doing some partnerships?
Definitely, I think for us, like as long as there are real music rights involved, then it's interesting. Like I don't think we would be interested in helping people just doing, because like you'd see now, I know, I think it was Warner did this probably label thing, which is like fun and etc. But when I see these big labels, they go into Web3 and they're like, okay, here there's new capital. I'm gonna keep um, my you know my goal, which is the royalties and the rights, and I'm just gonna try to monetize this new, you know new web or new tech by creating new things. Like we want the real rights to be involved here because we think it's fair that this community gets to be part of the real value.
With your experience, do you see value in this utility method for artists who are not a Rihanna or Offset, providing additional value to their holders? Do you see it being providing the same leverage? I think is my question.
I mean, definitely, but in a completely different way. So the reason why we're starting with the big tracks, with the Rihanna, the Weekend tracks, and etc., it's because we want to bring people in, right? We want to bring people from outside of Web3 in. We want to bring Web3 natives in to understand that okay, this is big tracks and big producers and artists are involved, and here you can actually co-own tracks and earn royalties. Like that's the first part to educate. But obviously down the road, we will allow for independents to join. But if you start the independent route, it's going to be very difficult to get in the big names later. However, if you start with the big names, it's more simple to get the independents later. And how I see the independents benefiting from this is like, you see Soundix was in, etc., which is again, I really like their product, but I would see this as even more interesting because say that you could buy an NFT from an independent artist, but also in that NFT have real rights to that artist. Then if that artist later blows up, you will actually be a part of that, for real, monetarily as well, which is pretty cool. And from the artist or the independent artist perspective, obviously they get to fund their early days, and I would say that it almost becomes when it comes to really early artists or really independent artists, it could almost become like a Patreon thing, where you actually just support them. But then again, if they blow up, then it's not just support, then you actually have won something, which I think is interesting.
We haven't really got into it, but most recently you partnered with Deputy, a notable producer within the music industry, tied to Rock Nation, and it was very smart. It was strategic, and the drop was right on time. So, can you kind of discuss on how that partnership came to fruition?
Yeah, definitely. So again, we're based in Stockholm. There's some really good producers and songwriters and artists, and a lot of good music people here. And it was through one of them we got connected to Deputy. And I was in LA this fall. We talked about the concept and how it worked, and he got really excited. He's really like a forward thinking, very savvy person. So he definitely understood that this is a fun and smart move. So we got really excited, and that's where we started planning. Like what song to do and when. And we didn't anticipate to get this level of attention, but again, since part of the goal here is to since part of the goal here is to bring people in, like the attention is good after all.
What can we be looking forward to from another blog in the next coming months?
So many good songs that will be coming out. So the next one is really big. If you go into our Discord, you'll see what it is. It's European this time, but with like our biggest EDM artists, which is super fun. Then we just have so much more great music coming up. So it's going to be we want people to be able to build their own music catalog. So you know again, and we want people to start by investing in the biggest songs. So it's going to be big songs, and it's going to be a lot more songs. Right now we're doing one drop a month, but I would say approximately after the summer we're going to start ramping up.
So, if someone wants to get involved in with the community, you recommend the Discord so they can be in tune with all the upcoming drops, correct?
Definitely, yes.
Perfect. So I do want to be very mindful of your time because I know it's super late where you are, and so I definitely want to keep that in mind. So before we close it out, is there anything that you want to kind of discuss? Did I miss anything that you want to talk about?
No, I think it's really good. I think we discussed like where the idea came from, and and what our plans are. But I would just like additionally want to say like how the Web3 community is just because there's so many things that aren't within the tech that are so very, very unique and great with the Web3 community. I mean, we started building our community mainly on Discord, 6 months before we even launched. So, like, it's so unique to this space where people actually want to co-create with you, co-create. So, we get so much good product input. We get input about how to form our future drops. There's so much great things that come from people who feel that this project is theirs, and that is completely uniquely a Web3 thing in my opinion, and that's why partly why I'm so bullish in this space.
No, thank you so much. I just joined the Discord a couple of days ago, and it's been very informative. Honestly, I'm not really big on Discord, but for what you guys are doing, I feel like it's very important to understand everything you guys will be dropping, especially as someone who loves the opportunity to own royalties and artists that I support. So I've definitely joined the Discord. I will be tuned in to what's to come from Another Block. And once again, I want to thank you
Brilliant.
for pulling up today. And I know it's late again. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to everything you and the team have to come in the future.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, and yeah, talk soon again.
Most definitely have a blessed day, and keep killing it, my friend.
All right, see ya.